Hi, everybody. Mark, are you going to get us started?
So I think, good evening. What we had done, let me see here. I'm going to advance the slide here to the agenda. What we've done in the last two is allow the co-chairs to open the meeting, welcome everyone. Some have taken attendance, and then I don't know if everyone had an opportunity to look at the prior meeting minutes, and if there was any corrections or comments to those. And then if you want, I will then take over from there and go through the presentation.
Great, thank you. I'll go ahead and introduce myself again. I'm Marnie Morioni. I'm on the Portland Board of Education and the District 5 representative. And I'll turn it over to Councillor Mavadonis. I believe he's on.
I'm Nick Mavadonis. I'm an at-large councillor.
And then in the past, we have kind of gone around just for introductions, but I'm just looking at it's kind of hard to see the screen while we're seeing the presentation, but if I could just say your name and you say that you're here, if that'd be all right. Okay. So Joe Carter.
Here.
Emily Surway.
Here.
Luke Trumaine.
Yeah, here.
Did I pronounce that right, Luke? Trumaine or Truman?
Truman.
Truman. Okay, hi. Laurie Davis.
Hello, I'm here.
Hi, Laurie. Jeff.
Hi.
Michael Barton.
Yeah, here. Trying to get my camera up.
We also have staff. We have Doug Sherwood.
Good evening, everyone.
And going back, we have Steve Stilfen.
Present.
And we have Superintendent Botana.
Good evening.
One person I don't see on the call is Principal Terry Young. Does anybody know if he's planning on joining us tonight?
I don't know if he is. Actually, I know he's not. He's on vacation. Sorry.
Okay. Okay. And now, in terms of approving the prior meeting minutes, I think that, can I turn that to you, Mark, to run what we need to do for the approval?
Sure. I guess the first question is, did everyone get an opportunity to look at them? I think in some of our previous subcommittee, the other BLACs, not everyone necessarily has had an opportunity, but if everyone has, we can sort of move forward and see if there were any comments. If they haven't, we can table that and allow people to have a chance to review them. So I guess I'd turn it back. Have people had an opportunity to find them and review them? See a few positive nods. So.
See a thumbs up. See some nods.
Right.
Put your thumb down if you didn't get to see it.
I'm not sure I'm getting all the emails, honestly.
Yeah, let's review that just for a minute. Mark, can you explain how they can find the information and
Sure.
get before the meetings?
Yeah, that information should be being sent out, and the minutes are posted on Board Docs, but it goes out with the invitations, and so I think we'll work with staff to figure out, Jeff, if there's a omission on the distribution of that information to you. So make sure that you're getting them. We're going to cover, incidentally, we're going to cover a communication piece tonight too, which will make it a lot easier for people to find information. And so hopefully that will also be another resource to make sure you're plugged in.
Great, thanks.
Excellent. So for those who've had read them, if there aren't any updates, I don't know if we need a formal approval. I know we do that for the ABC, but I'm not sure at the BLACs that we can, but maybe we do an informal approval of those by a show of hands, maybe.
Sure, if everybody could raise their hand if they approve the meeting minutes from our last BLAC.
Great. All right.
Did you see everybody's hands?
Do like we?
Okay.
Can I just ask a question? And I don't know how formal this has to be. As you said, you do it at the district level committee. But, and if this meeting comes onto FOA, which I assume it does, I think we're supposed to do roll calls for all votes. So again, I'm not sure if this is at that level, but if it's a meeting that would come under FOA, we may have to, I know it's a pain, but do a roll call.
The meeting would come under FOA.
Okay.
Because it's a public.
So we might need a motion and a second and a I mean, I'd be happy to move approval of the
Sure.
minutes.
Is there?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Laurie. All right, first moved by Councilor Mavadonis, seconded by Ms. Davis, and let me do a roll call then. Joe Carter,
Yes.
Luke Truman,
You're muted still, Luke.
Yes.
Laurie Davis,
Yes.
Michael Barton,
Yes.
Jeff Levine.
I'm just going to vote present because I didn't see them.
Oh, okay. Emily Surway.
Yes.
And Michael Barton.
Yes, again.
Oh, I'm sorry about that. Bill Dodson. Hi, Bill. I think you're just joining us. We're just doing approval of the meeting minutes from our last meeting. And not sure if you had a chance to see them. If you haven't, you can just abstain, or if you have, you can vote to approve or not to approve.
Oh, approved.
Okay, great.
And Marnie, I don't know if you called me, but
Oh, I'm sorry, Councilor Mavador.
if you didn't, I don't remember, but I'm a yes as well.
Okay, and I'm a yes too. So,
And can I just say, for those that aren't familiar with FOA, the legislature allowed virtual meetings due to the pandemic, and the requirement is that you have to do roll call votes to record any votes. So that's why I raised the issue. Thank you.
thank you very much. Okay. Now let's move back to Mark, please.
Very good. Thank you. We've got three primary content areas to explore with everyone tonight. The first is a look at how we might phase the construction of the project. And so that's, we're excited that we have the building level advisory committee to be able to provide us some immediate feedback about what we've been thinking about in terms of the phasing, but how it might be perceived from the folks that know the school that much more intimately than we do. We'll bring up to speed with where we are with the floor plans. And then we also have an update on our communication. And so we'll move through those. Appreciate you all taking the time tonight. I know it's difficult in a 45-minute presentation to get through all the material. We also, if you have questions during this, what we've been doing is use the raise hand function as part of the Zoom meeting, and one of the co-chairs will call on you during the meeting itself and facilitate the questioning to the appropriate party. If it's something that Harriman that I can handle, then we'll do that. If it needs to go to another individual that's present, we'll do that as well. So I think we'll start in here. And so with the phasing, we really looked at a couple considerations. Typically, when we look at an occupied building, you have a couple options with respect to trying to do a lot of renovation. You can either there's actually sometimes three options. One, you can sort of find an alternate location for the operations, and so you can move everyone out, and then the contractors can come in, do the renovation work, and then the program would reoccupy the building itself. So that's the first one, is to find some alternate location for a period of time. That's the shortest way to do any construction project, because it doesn't require that the contractors start and stop in any particular way, and they have full access to the site and to both the interior of the building and logistically getting materials to and from. there's also the aspect of, is there anything available and what's the cost of renting an alternate space while you're doing that? So that also has to be factored into it. The other things we could do is we can try to accommodate the renovation work during times that the building is not occupied. So that's would be summers and vacation periods. And so the challenge with that is that there's not a lot of time in the summer. You really have 8 weeks or so during which you can try to get a lot of work done. So the impact that has is that it extends the construction duration for a very long period of time, because you don't have, you're just doing it episodically, and that can also drive up cost as well and extend the schedule. So the third option is looking at how do you create some swing space so that you can move folks out of areas of the building and then go in and renovate those, and then you bring those people back in, and then you take another portion of the building offline, and you sort of go around and do that until all the areas are renovated. And so that we looked at various scenarios. We most conservatively looked at the option of, how much could we get done in the summers versus the school year. And summers you can get more work done, certainly, but there was not enough time to do all the work in the summers and do this in an efficient way. So this largely follows a similar pattern that will be happening for Reiki. Presumpscott already has 6 modular classrooms, and so in some ways that's already set them up. But what the plan is here is to bring in 3 modular units, which each has 2 classrooms. And so we would have a total of 6 classrooms to be able to break apart and do renovations in different areas of the building. As you all recall, the big part of the work that we're spending a lot of effort on is the abatement work and then the subsequent renovations for Longfellow. And so that the abatement piece, what we looked at initially was how much of that could we get done during the summer. We can't do a full area of the building during the summer to get all the abatement out and then put it all back together again. And so the challenge is that we didn't want to leave classrooms with flooring that had been ripped up and ceilings that had been taken down as what students would move back into to the fall. So the way we looked at it is the first summer, 2021, next summer, we would install the portable classrooms. We would abate the ceiling and the flooring in the first floor corridors. And the reason we're doing the corridors in the summer is because during the school year, those are necessary. You're moving back and forth throughout the building, and so you can't do the abatement in the corridors during the school year. It has to be done when the building's not occupied. So, and we would replace the ceilings in the first floor corridor, and so there's not time to do the flooring and the ceiling, so we would put new ceilings up that first summer. So that's the dashed area that's shown on the first floor as part of summer number 1. And then what we do is we break up the school year into the two semesters, and so we have the fall and the spring. And so that fall of 2021, next year, we would then move a portion of the building, and we've kind of sectioned it off into, we're calling pods, but and the pods can be different configurations, but this looks at doing all the kindergarten and 2 classrooms that are identified as first, second loop classrooms right now. Those areas that are shown in dashed blue. And so during the fall, those students in those classrooms would move to the modulars, and there would be construction barriers set up in the building, and those classrooms would be abated in full, and then the work would go to restore new flooring, new ceiling, new lighting, and new power into the classrooms, new instructional technology. So it's a real full rehab of those classrooms in the building itself. And so once that fall work is done, we'll use the winter break, to switch. And so the subsequent or coming up on the following spring, those rooms are done. Students move back into those permanently renovated spaces, and then another section is taken offline and renovated. And so we're identifying the second area of classrooms on the first floor as the spring of 2022. And so that accommodates another component of the 3 modular structures of the 6 different classrooms. And And so this is, again, mostly diagrammatic, but it gets down to, at a certain point, we actually figure out which staff member has to move when during each phase. And that's similar to what we had done at LISAF for the different phases that we had to go through there. And so at the end of this spring 2022, then we go into summer and we complete the renovation of the work on the first floor. And so that's the area at the entrance and the library, music, and toilet rooms. And so after that summer of 2022, so it's been a full year since the start of the construction, or slightly more than a year. The first level is renovated. And then what we also do that summer is abate the ceiling and flooring on the second floor. So first summer we abated the ceiling and flooring on the first quarter. Second summer we do it on the second floor. And so that's what's represented here. And so and then we'll start to construct the new admin areas as we had shown on the lower level, abate flooring, install new materials on the music and library, and install flooring in that first floor corridor. So all that happened downstairs right here that's identified, and then upstairs we abate the corridor, and we put the new ceilings in the corridor itself. And so then that second cycle, or second academic year, we do one side of the corridor on the second level during the fall, and then we switch and do the last section of classrooms in the spring of 2023. And then at that time, we also, in the summer, install the flooring, and we abate any of the piping and flooring that may still remain in the lowest level of the building itself. And so the duration itself is just over 2 years. It's about the 2 summers plus the intervening academic years. And so it's about 26, 27 months. That's approximately the duration that the LISAF project is going as well. So, and it's what we're proposing that probably will be the case for Reiki. And so the Reiki and Longfellow projects will have approximately the same duration. The Presumpscot is a little bit less because there's less interior work that's being done, less interior renovation work. And so theirs is predominantly the additions. But this is the way we've sort of looked at the feasibility. The only way to accelerate it is to add more portables. And part of the problem with that is that there just is not enough room on the site to accommodate more portable classrooms. And so we've identified 2 areas, and these are not to scale. They're simply looking at the different areas on the site where we might be able to put the modular structures. And so they're relatively flat. The area down behind the school as it approaches the basketball courts starts to flatten out at that area. And so that may require a little more leveling off to accommodate portable structures there. And the other location is really in the parking area. Neither of them are ideal, but really it's such an extremely tight site that we're not sure where else to be able to put them. And so we don't want to have them too remote from the building itself for obvious reasons. So that's, again, part of what we want to hear in terms of feedback for those who understand the functioning of the area in and around the building, if there's a preference for either location. We also may not be able to fit all of them in one location, and it may require that we look at breaking them up and putting 2 in one location and 1 in another if we can't fit them all in one. And so we're evaluating that at this time. And so I'm going to take a pause for a moment here and ask if there are any questions on the phasing before we move on to another subject.
Mike here. I apologize. I missed last BLAC meeting, but one thought I was having, or if it came up last time, and there's already a reason why not, but did anyone consider potentially just talking with what's now, I guess, the Stevens Square Community Center as a potential alternative site? vacate the school and allow for schedule acceleration?
We had not heard that was a potential option, and I don't know, excuse me, if others who might be more familiar with it.
Steve, I know you've spoken to them. What's the story?
Excuse me, what site are you referring to?
What used to be Macaulay.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Yeah, sorry, yeah, Macaulay, Maine Girls Academy.
Okay, sure. Yeah, we've had dialogue with the current owners, and they walked through capacity-wise, looked at it. And Doug can help me here. He was with me. I think we were looking at somewhere 140 to 50 students. It wouldn't have taken a lot of our capacity. It would have some. And he was looking for a certain lease position. And when I had talked to him, it was maybe 8 months ago. And during that time where we were just moving through this, to make a long story short, he has leased it out. So, and I had just had a conversation with him, must have been 2.5, 3 months ago, where we took some equipment out of his school because of his new tenants moving into the school. So it was a lifeboat to some extent, but this wasn't something that was going to fit our full needs. When we were looking to lifeboat students throughout the district, we did consider them as well.
Thanks.
I see Emily has her hand up next. Emily.
Hi. I think that, I'm going to probably end up speaking for a lot of people that are going to be very uncomfortable with doing any asbestos abatement with children in the building. Any time that you have humans involved in, in work like this, the risk is there. And, I know that as a mom, I would not be comfortable having my kid there. As a teacher, I would have a hard time with it. And I'm sure that you guys are going to work really hard to try to convince us that, oh, it's fine, it's safe, we seal everything off. But I think that at the back of every person's mind, that is going to be a major concern. And I agree that, finding an alternative space, it was going to get this work done much faster and much more efficiently. I've worked in portables. I think that they're a stopgap solution. And since we're not adding any, space to the building, to the floor plan, I think that there's also this, this possible draw that I've seen happen in other schools along the way, where you're like, oh, well, it's great to have this extra space. Let's just keep the portables. That has happened. And, if I didn't know that there was a precedent to that, I would not even suggest it. But my gut feeling is that, if you can alter the plan to, either get everybody out of the building to do all of the abatement, or have less abatement work. The floors are fine. I mean, the floors really do not need a whole heck of a lot unless you're, fully cutting into them. And then I think you can mitigate that, in those particular spaces. So, I mean, I think if you can rework that idea by just saying, okay, well, maybe over one summer we do all of the ceilings, have everybody out of the building, and then you leave the floors, and then maybe you end up with some of that money left over, because $8 million is an awful lot of money for an abatement. Maybe you have some of that money left over to actually put more programming space into this very tight building. So thank you.
I don't see any other hands. Does anybody? Yes, Jeff?
Just quickly, in terms of modular space, did you look at the spaces in front of Deering High School, those sort of grassy areas?
Yeah, we did not. Our concern again is thinking about how far it would be from the school itself, and so I think that's we're starting to feel like it's getting a little remote when we start moving it over there. But that is something we have not looked at yet.
Any other hands?
In response to Emily, I think there's you bring up actually a good point. When we identified those areas, those pod areas, to be renovated sequentially. The intent is that the abatement does not occur while there are occupants in the building, and so it's that we either use a portion of the summer to be able to abate, work in a pod, or we can do it over the break, the winter break. So thank you for bringing that up.
Well, thank you for clarifying, because what it looked like to me was that you had the kindergarten wing sealed off to do in the fall. So I might have understood that. So
absolutely, it's sealed off in that we're renovating it, so it has all the new finishes have to go in, and when that's after it's been abated, so it's renovating those spaces fully.
Bill, you're up next.
Thanks. On Emily's comment, I'd like to learn a little bit more about what's the detail on the flooring. If it's in good shape, there must be more to that story.
Yeah, they certainly, right now, in most districts, and Portland is certainly one of them, the idea is that most districts are moving to constantly remove all hazardous materials from buildings. And so that means, and it's typically in three primary areas. It's flooring materials and mastics, it's pipe coverings, and oftentimes there could even be older transit panels or plaster even in walls can contain asbestos. And so most districts, and they're required to maintain an inventory of that, and Steve and the staff maintain that inventory, but it's the end goal to remove hazardous materials from buildings. And that includes the flooring. So, and to the point where the material is not dangerous unless it becomes friable. And so the idea that when it becomes airborne, that's when and it poses a risk. But it's that those products are actually pretty durable. But there's always a potential risk that even floor tile we see sometimes in stairs where they receive a lot of wear. Sometimes that can, but usually those are durable materials, but it's still usually the policy of most districts to rid the buildings of hazardous materials. I believe that's Portland's goal is to as well, but Steve can speak to that.
That would be our policy and goals under it here, and we've had this conversation really extensively specific to Longfellow, from the ceilings to the floors. Asbestos, your insulation on all your piping and from the heating system, asbestos, your windows, your caulkings, your glues, all PCBs, all of these things in the environment. And you're right, unless it's in the air or someone breaks it up, and its properties are not dangerous. It's been in the school since it was built. So that's the issue that we looked at, is abatement to the additional spacing under the budget we had. So we took an approach of looking at, well, if we do additions, we would only abate what we touch, okay? So then that left everything else in place. So then we say renovate the classroom. Now you renovate the walls, and I guarantee you're gonna contact the ceilings. So you're gonna have to abate what you touch there. So you're going to end up with a halfway approach to abatement, and budgetarily and expense-wise, we were not going to be in a good return on your money by doing it that way. So through the planning to increase learning space and having a secure entrance as well, that issue of do we just put a rug over it and say it's good, or do we get it out of the school now when we have this opportunity, and probably only this opportunity, to do it? And as you know, going into the school, you look up the ceilings, you see all of the exhaust from Stevens Avenue, all of the environmental pollutants are laying on top of that asbestos ceiling. So when we try to we have a roof leak, or we're in that process of disturbing it in ceilings. So that was the approach that we evaluated to look at from the policy side in the hearing, to say the opportunity to get this away from the children and kids and teachers in the schools is in this project is to abate the school. And we also need to bring in a new electrical connection, which is in the basement in the tunnel, which is an amazing place for 1960 construction. I mean, there's asbestos everywhere. So that's abatement. That's what it is to Longfellow School.
Thanks, Steve. I don't see any other hands. I have a couple of questions or comment. In terms of the modulars, I'm not sure if anybody would remember, but the parking lot at one time had several modulars when my kids were at Longfellow for 9 or 10 years. And the capacity then was over 600 at the school, but there were a number of modulars in the parking lot. There wasn't the handicapped entrance that there is now, but and I think I don't know what analysis was done to look at other locations to put modulars, but there have been several there before. My suspicion is staff and the architects have exhausted all alternatives here, but I wanted to ask, during the hall process, we were looking at trying to free up space before it closed, and looked at one point, and it was cost prohibitive, I think, but of moving a grade or two to Deering High School. And is there any opportunities? I know it's a little further away, and we actually had a lengthy debate about what the appropriate grades were. And once the teachers talked to us, we understood we probably were going in the wrong direction about which grade, but that's another story. But Lincoln or Deering, are there any opportunities to relocate students for more students or for a longer period of time? I suspect the answer is no, but I just wanted to ask.
Well, again, we looked at the Superintendent Botana had asked us to look at that, and we've looked at configurations for a few other different reasons here very recently with LaValle and Brescinger and architects. So we have vetted it. We're looking at maybe 45 students. Exclusionary of what might opening look like for COVID.
Okay, so it sounds like those wouldn't be options.
Only on those, not for what we need, Nick.
Okay, thanks, Steve.
We wouldn't have gone no one wanted to go more modular route if we could take all these children and put them in someplace else. We certainly would do it. And the question too, I'd like to, as I think back to the Macaulay and the setup that they had there, earlier on, before we started YSEF, we were thinking when he was looking to lease, it still wouldn't have taken all of Longfellow, and it wouldn't have, when we were thinking Presumpscot and moving to East End. So we really looked at a lot of different moving parts with programs of pre-K coming in and the spaces that we have. And we got another good look at it, as I said, with LaValle and Brescinger, when we looked at moving central office folks around in different areas of the school so that we got a tighter look at the spaces that we have.
Thank you. And I guess my only other question is around, it sounds like we have a fairly prescriptive schedule of when we want this work to take place, which will be in the bid documents, which is not unusual. Do we think it will complicate the bidding to have I don't know what options we have, but have a fairly protracted schedule where only certain things can be done at certain times? I don't know if you have a sense of that from your other projects, Mark and team. Maybe others, Mike Barton, you might have a sense of it too. But I just was curious about that.
Can I just say one thing? After the 3 meetings tonight, in my mind went to this, where our real opportunity may lie is in the bid document as we look at phasing and Mark's architectural review and costing coming back in. If we pull in the right contractor on these 3, they're in it to make money, and they're going to come back to us with I'm hoping for some different views that we haven't thought of. But in the protection of the architect and integration in the bid package, from efficiency standpoints and scheduling lockdowns, I think when we create that bid to hopefully get one contractor on these 3 schools, then we will look at it like we did with the license school. We sit down with that contractor, we scour that bid, we see where we can make advantage. Maybe we have a price advantage with COVID or the market. I don't know, but we hope. And there may be some more money put back in. But I'm hoping that we get the right contractor who sees these 3 schools and says, piece of cake, and want to drive. They're going to have to take the lowest price. So they're going to have a motivation to come up with better ways to build this mousetrap with Mark and Lisa. So that's what I think.
Thanks for that.
Yeah.
Thanks for that. And that was kind of where I was going is, we're pretty prescriptive, and, will there be flexibility for the contractor to come back and say, I may have a better way of doing this or schedule for doing this?
Absolutely, but the issue that we have to, because it's a public bid and because it's a school operation, there has to be at least a very clearly delineated process of how it could function. And certainly if they come back with a better mousetrap, we're more than willing to understand, and I'm sure they'll look at it multiple ways. One of the constraints is thinking about how much room we have for modulars. They may be able to say, well, we could do a lot more renovation in a semester. I guess that we can look at that, but the constraint of how many modules we can fit on the site might be a consideration there. But it as Steve has said, the contractor may have a much different way of looking at it, and we're all ears.
Great, thank you. Do we have any other questions? I don't see any other hands up. If anybody has any questions.
Actually, Nick, I can't for some reason find my raise my hand feature at the moment. Can I ask a question?
You certainly can.
Thanks. So actually, it's more of a comment, I think. I just wanted to piggyback on what Emily was referring to with regards to asbestos, and I've heard it already from community members around when we go out to the community for the next forum, just to make sure that it's, again, very, very clear around how much, if any, exposure at all will the children have or not. And because that, I think, will be very alarming to parents and staff as well, if they felt like that there could be any potential risk whatsoever. That's my comment. And then I guess my question too is looking at the portables. From what I think I gathered you saying is there's the 2 portables that you have in the picture, but you needed to accommodate 140 students in 2 portables. Did I misunderstand that?
I think I meant to say that at the Macaulay could hold.
Oh, okay. Sorry, Steve. Okay.
Yeah, that's it.
So how many classrooms or how many students will 2 portables hold?
So what we're showing is that the need to create swing space for 6 classrooms, the way we've defined it, and that will fit into 3 modular structures. So each modular building or structure has 2 classrooms in it. And so these rectangles aren't dimensional. They're just an idea of where on the site we were looking at placing them.
Okay.
And so our hope is that we can get them all in one contiguous location. There's some efficiency by having them together. And so that's sort of the next level of understanding where exactly we fit them onto the site. And so I think, does that answer that question, Marnie?
Yeah, that helps. And I kind of tend to lean to what Nick was saying about the considering the parking lot, only because, that has been done before, and it would be right there at the new entrance. Could be potentially better access for everyone instead of considering it being moved. Possibly down by the basketball courts too, where you have that. There's a walkway there from the parking lot down there. I think that would make sense. But thank you.
Mike has his hand up.
Yeah, more of a comment than a question, but Nick, as you mentioned, you lived through the Longfellow reno, but then you also had the privilege of having your kids live through the 3 middle school reno, which I did too, and spent 2 years at the Armory in modulars and in that building. And I just want to throw this out there. I don't think there's going to be any fuel or consideration for a lump sum bid for all. I think the splitting it up will actually be best, I think, for all of the different locations, given each of their unique constraints. So if there's an expectation that we're at the windfall with a contractor who's going to come in and said, if we get all 3, we can do this, I don't think it's going to happen.
So you were a little broken up, Mike. Were you saying you thought 3 different contractors or one contractor was better? Or did I
think 3 discrete contractors, 1 for each school, would serve the district better than trying to hitch the wagon to 1.
Thanks, Mike. My understanding, and I would tend to agree with you, my understanding is that decision about whether it's 1 contract or 3 contracts has been or is being addressed by the District Advisory Building Committee. Am I correct with that, Mark or Steve?
Ultimately,
we've had
yeah. I mean, ultimately, that is the school board's decision. But actually, it's the school board ratifies my decision, but the decision, we will be putting it out as 3 separate projects, and there's no requirement that a contractor bid for all 3. They can bid a single one. So I think Steve is it's conjecture that we could potentially get 1 contractor that would win all 3 schools, and that we would then be able to try to leverage some of the efficiencies from that. But there's no guarantees that will happen. So.
Thank you, Javier.
Answer your question, Nick?
That answer, get to where you were, Mike. Thanks. Anyone else who hasn't, or who may have spoken but would like to speak again? All right, I'll turn it back, I guess, to you, Mark.
Very good. Thank you. So just very quickly, a floor plan update. The effort that we've done since the last time we met is to go through and evaluate all the programs they currently have. We got the staff list from Terry, and we've gone through and identified where existing programs are, as well as look at where where programs are going to be created in new spaces or newly configured spaces. And so we've dug into that level of detail. What we understood when we completed that, though, is that we still weren't showing a pre-kindergarten room is still a need. And so one of the things that we're carefully looking at right now is whether or not there's, after we update the project budget, if there is enough funding left over for a small addition to accommodate a few program pieces that are needed in the building itself. And so that's, we're working with our cost estimator right now to refine the numbers for both the abatement and the refurbishment of the classrooms. And so as the process goes on and as we develop our drawings in a more detailed way, the estimate gets better and better. And so, but right now we've gone through and at least identified the spaces in previous floor plans. I think you'd seen where there was something was just labeled office, and now we have located where social worker rooms are, where speech is, where OTPT is, and math and reading interventions, and so we've gone through and sort of fine-tuned the program's locations in the floor plan itself. So our next meeting will come forward with a fully vetted plan for showing where all programs are. And like I said, we're hopeful that we can add on space for the pre-kindergarten, likely over at the end of the kindergarten wing. That would be on that side. And I suspect that you can't read the titling on the screen. The good news is that our next topic at the meeting is will address the idea that you can look at the floor plans and download them in greater detail. And so that will be a help for all of you, I think. So, this just shows the second floor. This hasn't changed much. The configuration of the classrooms on the second floor largely remains the same, with the exception of the end where we do cut the corridor in to the new elevator over in this corner of the building. We have the 2 single-user restrooms that can be either used for staff or students as an alternative to the multi-user restrooms, and then the creation of the resource room down at that end of the corridor. And so that is the second floor plan. Any questions on the floor plans? Again, it's hard to see, and I understand that. Largely, the configuration of spaces hasn't changed much, but we've started to identify what they are and inventoried them against the existing programs and staffing.
Anybody have any questions? Please put your hand up on the screen. If you don't, that's fine. I'm not seeing anybody, Mark.
Okay. I won't go through the feedback, but we are receiving lots of feedback from everyone in our previous meetings, and we tabulated it here. One of the things that we wanted to highlight as kind of the last piece of our meeting tonight was that we've created a new website for the project, and so it is live now out there on the internet, and Emily Waugh from Harriman compiled all the information for all 4 projects, organized it into a new website so that it's much easier to find everything. And so I'm actually going to bring up, I think, the website itself. It is ppsbfofprojects.com. And so anyone who wants to type that into their web browser, we'll bring them right here to this web page. And on it, we have a navigation bar right at the top banner with all the different content areas. And largely, they're broken up into meetings and project schedules. And so if you ever want to know when a meeting is, it's all right here, the updates of when the meetings are. And so we have right now the BLACs will be August 27th, and we have the schedule for those. And so we know when our next meeting is, we know when the DABC meetings are, and so that'll be updated always right here at this location. And in addition to that, we have, at the end of this, we actually have the committees. And so if you're unsure of who is on the committee or any of the committees, we have the DABC, and then we have the various BLAC committees as well, their membership right there. And we have meeting materials as another content area. So all the PowerPoint presentations are all uploaded here. So at any point you can download them for both DABC and for BLACs. And so they're right here. And the community forums as well are all right here. And we also have meeting minutes and, excuse me, the meeting agendas are all posted as well. We have the project updates sheets, and so these are the periodic updates to the project that we send out, and that also you can download by clicking easy on the navigation bars. And then there's also a section for the floor plans and photos. And so, as I mentioned, you can find all the floor plans for all the projects right here, and you can view them, and as well as we have the renderings and construction photos for the projects in here as well. And so this will be updated continuously as we move through the project, and it'll be a great place to be able to find information on the progress of the design and construction. We also have an FAQ section, and so the frequently asked questions are posted here. And so they're categorized as either being general frequently asked questions or as they specifically relate to the building itself. And those are compiled from our community forum as well as our BLAC meetings. And so we've put the question and the responses in there, and I'm sure this will grow over time as well. But it's a great place to be able to find answers to questions that people have already asked. And then we also have a contact button. So if anyone has questions or comments, there's a way for them to get in touch with us. And so that goes to an email that we then can, that informs the Harriman team as well as the district on what the questions are. And we'll continue to log those questions and provide updates to you folks as well. So we hope that this really becomes kind of that single source area. It's much, much easier to find information than having to dig through the board docs. There will be a link to it on the district website, so right on their homepage, and so you'll be able to link right to this project website right here. And so just, again, a big thank you to Emily Waugh, who helped pull all this together and find one location where it's easy to find the material. So thank you again, Emily, for that. And we hope you use this. We will be sending out a press release about the website so the community also can access this, and it becomes very helpful moving forward.
Thanks, Mark. And Emily, thanks for this. It really looks impressive with a lot of information, and it looks easy to navigate. I will admit struggling with board docs. So maybe I'm the only one. Anybody have any questions, thoughts on the website? Not seeing anyone. Thank you.
So, and as we said at their next meeting, the last item we had is our next meeting is on August 27th.
I am seeing Doug Sherwood's hand up. Doug.
Yes, sir. I just wanted Mark to let everybody know what to expect at our get together in August, you know, because we really haven't fully engaged everyone to date. And I think this is our first crack for everybody to feel they're part of the process and the project.
Absolutely. Now, and what we've pulled together and what we're going to be reviewing it with staff tomorrow is a schedule of the individual design topics that take us through to November and December, and we'll share that with everyone. But the next one is really starting to look at what the interior transformations are going to look like, and so we'll actually have three-dimensional perspectives of the classrooms and some of the features of the design itself that we'll be sharing with everyone. So that's the information we'll share with you folks at our next meeting, as well as refinements to the floor plans, and so those will be all brought up to additional level of detail.
Great. Is there anything else? I think that was the last item on the agenda. Is there anything else we have tonight?
I think Ms. Davis has a hand up.
Oh, I didn't see it. Lori?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I also can't find a hand.
Oh, so you actually had your hand up.
I actually had my real hand up, yep.
Glad you saw it.
We kind of jumped quickly over the Longfellow feedback integration, and there were some items on there that I thought were important. And I guess and the response is sort of under consideration. I didn't know exactly what that meant or when those might, you know, what's going to happen with those? What's the process with that going forward?
Absolutely. So I think as I mentioned, we're looking at the refinement of the estimate to see how much. So for instance, that pre-kindergarten classroom added, we're looking to see, we're very hopeful that we can expand the budget to be able to accommodate those. So right now we've sort of been somewhat conservative and our numbers have been kind of more order of magnitude, but now as we develop the plans to a greater degree and we get updated, more precise estimates, we look to see if we can fold some of these pieces back in. So that's what under consideration means, that we're trying to accommodate them with a given budget that we have.
Okay, so for example, ELL and Title I still being in the basement?
Right. So the issue is if we do an addition for the pre-K room, is there any possibility that you know, we can build it enough to get a little bit more of the program spaces and get those out of those rooms? Or is there a way to look at renovating those spaces and so that they're a much improved environmental parameters within the space they're in, which may include damp proofing or waterproofing, ventilation systems in those spaces.
I think we need to be very sensitive to that. It's a classic equity issue that usually your low-income students and your English language learners are an afterthought and put in the least desirable spaces. And this is our school with actually the highest socioeconomic and the lowest number of ELL and free and reduced lunch students. So I think that actually needs to be addressed aggressively, because to continue that placement just really sends the wrong message to our communities about what's important and who's important. So I would just, having worked in that field for quite a while, and this is a real concern, I think that's one that, we probably want to use the basement spaces, but especially any classrooms where students are there all the time. If it's full out space, still, it sends a message, So.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Lori. I don't see anybody with hands up on the screen. Anybody? Well, I don't have the full screen up. Is anybody waving with their hand up? Nobody's saying yes. So
Marnie is, I think.
I can't find my hand.
Sorry, Marnie, you're not on my list.
Great. No, I just wanted to say thank you so very much for the website. That's huge, particularly as I would like to encourage our committee members to pass that website out to other community members or other community so they know and can get an update to know what we're working on. I would also encourage the Harriman staff to put on there, even though we don't have an actual date for the September Community Forum, to at least highlight that somewhere on the website. I just took a quick glance from my phone, so it may already be there, but just to highlight that is something we can also start to get the community understanding that in September there'll be a larger community forum for them to participate in as well, simply because a lot of people are asking, and this is a good opportunity to help us get the information out.
That's a great idea. I think I could probably add a banner even on that homepage or something that can notify people.
But thank you for all the hard work. It's really great. Thank you.
We have a couple more hands up. We've got Jeff Levine and then Mike Barton. Jeff?
Sure, thanks. And I echo the congratulations on the work to date, and also Laurie's comments. As you look at some of these other physical plant things that are under consideration, I'd encourage you to look at the life cycle savings of some of them also. So, for example, a new HVAC system, I don't know what the payback time is. It's probably not short, but there will be some operational savings. And I think, as we all have to continue to fund the school system, that's something we should think about. It's not just the one-time costs, but the operating costs over time.
Good point, Jeff.
Thanks, Jeff. Good point. Mike?
I'm not sure if it's come up in other committee discussions or not, but in addition to, most projects have a contingency plan. Is there an opportunity plan, just given the uncertainty of what next school year looks like, for an acceleration of just the overall program if the school's vacant? Not to be blunt, but.
Yeah, so I guess, Michael, to your point, right now our start for the bidding cycle and the start of construction would be in the at the conclusion of it really kind of coincides with the spring construction start. So in some of the projects where we can actually start mobilization on the site while school's still in session, we'd look at that. But in earnest, a lot of the work is anticipating that there are students in the building until June. If there aren't students in the building until June, so let's say that the buildings are empty, we can look at accelerating that start time by weeks or maybe even a few months.
Thank you. Doug, I see your hand is still up. I think it maybe just didn't come down from last time, or do you want to get back in?
No, it hasn't come down. I'm sorry.
No problem. I don't see any other hands. Anybody waving that I can't see? I think then we'd probably move to adjournment, and because we did take a vote, we probably should have a motion to adjourn, and then we can and get a second. So is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Was that Lori?
It's Laurie. Yep.
Yeah. And is there a second?
Second.
Was that you, Joe?
Yes.
All right. I'm going to try to go down through the list. I'll just read a name and you can say yes or no if you want to adjourn. Jeff?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
I'm just seeing who's on my screen as I look across. Marnie?
Yes.
Emily?
Yes.
Luke?
Yes.
If I missed anyone who's a committee member.
Me.
No.
Laurie.
Oh, Lori, that's right. I couldn't see you on here. So that was a yes, Lori?
That's a yes. Yep.
Did I miss anyone else?
And yes from me, Nick. Joe.
Sorry, Joe. You guys made the motions and I skipped you guys. Did anybody else I skipped?
Assumed our support.
And I'm a yes. So we have a unanimous vote to adjourn. And thank you, everybody, for your participation.
Thank you. Have a good night.
We'll see you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.